Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal and other distinguished members of the committee and Congress for holding this hearing and for inviting me to testify along with my esteemed colleagues today. Human Rights First is a nonpartisan organization that for more than 45 years has worked to advance human rights for all, including by providing pro bono representation for individuals fleeing persecution and supporting policy outcomes that bolster refugee and anti-torture protections. I'm honored to appear before this committee as a lawyer with experience representing people seeking asylum in our country, including many arriving at the southern U.S. border and in immigration detention. I represented people seeking asylum throughout the first Trump administration. The Trump administration has used a pattern of disappearances to detain, remove, and expel people to countries which are not their countries of origin and for which no removal proceedings have been conducted, nor the required fear screenings. These actions are part of a broader effort to subvert due process and the checks and balances that are central to the U.S. Constitution. Among those impacted in the first few months of the administration have been countless asylum seekers, including people fleeing persecution by repressive governments, religious-based persecution, anti-LGBTQI attacks, and other harms. A Russian asylum seeker forcibly transferred to Costa Rica told us, "You are taken to a country which you don't know anything about, and we have no idea what's going to happen next to us." The government has sought to justify these extraordinary acts under the guise of protecting our country from an invasion or from infiltration by members of a Venezuelan gang. The president invoked the Alien Enemies Act, which has only ever been invoked during times of war, in order to disappear hundreds of Venezuelans and others to a notorious torture prison in El Salvador. The individuals were given no notice or opportunity to contest the accusations of gang membership. Accusations which we have heard are baseless for the majority and based almost exclusively on tattoos that have nothing to do with gang membership, but are rather expressions of their personal life. Whether the accusations are true or not, it is our firm belief that the United States should not be in the business of sending anyone to torture. The president's invasion proclamation has also been used as the pretext for unlawfully denying people access to the U.S. asylum system since February. Asylum seekers, including families with young children from Afghanistan, Iran, China, Russia, and Turkey, and others, have been denied the opportunity to present their asylum claims and instead have been disappeared to third countries like Panama and Costa Rica and have been attempted to be sent to Libya and South Sudan, where they risk onward chain refoulement. When these individuals arrived in Costa Rica and Panama in February, authorities immediately detained them and withheld their passports, limited their contact with lawyers in the outside world, and transported them to remote facilities, including that lacked sufficient accommodation, food, potable water, medical care, or interpreters. Those detained in Panama were held incommunicado when Panamanian authorities confiscated their phones and blocked their access to lawyers. In both countries, they were isolated and lacked information about where they were, how long they were to be there, and what recourse they had. Before being disappeared to these third countries, many asylum seekers were detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection in unbearable conditions. They went days or weeks without any contact with the outside world. They were subject to medical neglect, physical and psychological mistreatment, and held in intolerable living conditions that were especially traumatizing for children. Some of the children were detained separately from one or both of their parents. They went days or weeks without seeing the sun, were hungry and cold. The American Academy of Pediatrics has found that even short periods of detention can cause psychological trauma and long-term mental health issues for children. These actions violate U.S. law, protections under the U.S. Constitution, and our treaty obligations to not send people to places where they would face persecution or torture. This is a purely punitive policy designed to incite fear in our communities and uses human beings as pawns in the government's campaign to terrorize immigrants into leaving our country. It's dangerous for every person, including U.S. citizens, to allow this abuse of power to continue unchecked, because these actions erode the very foundations of our democracy. Thank you again for this opportunity. I hope the committee members and members of Congress will demand transparency as to the past and future agreements between the United States and other countries that has resulted in these disappearances, and work to ensure that the return of all of those who have been disappeared or forcibly transferred to third countries. Thank you.